Don't engage alone. We do this together.
Yeah!
Yeah!
We got it! We got
New 52 book.
Somebody clip this one.
Welcome to Comics League Movie Night. I'm Jared. I'm here with Nick from the Phoenix Press. What's up, brother?
Near before the...
Yes! Now, I'm going to say this right now. Terence Stamp as General Zod is so iconic.
Yes. Okay. Real quick. Michael Shannon versus Terence Stamp. Compare and contrast.
So here's the thing. And again, I love Man of Steel, as you guys all know. The thing about...
No.
Yeah, I know. It's not like I'm wearing a Zack Snyder hoodie right now. But I think the thing about it, now I think about it, they're both good in their own ways. I don't really have a preference because Stamp is good for that version of Zod because he has the grandeur, he has like the more general bearing. But for the Snyderverse, the more brutal version of Zod works.
Yeah, like that's the thing. Like, if you swap this, like if you put Michael Shannon in this movie and Terence Stamp in the other, neither works.
Yeah, exactly. They work for
neither character works for the either movie. They're perfect for their own versions.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I prefer Terence Stamp to Michael Shannon. I think, like, see, this is the thing. Me and Jared have like perfectly contrasting opinions. I love Reeve Superman. He thinks it's okay. He loves Man of Steel. I think it's okay. Like, neither of us hate it, but we have flipping thing, and that's what makes this great.
Yeah. It's like, no, because here's the thing. It's like, yeah, I love Reeve Superman for what it is because of also what it did for superhero films. There wouldn't be a comic book movie genre if the first Superman movie had not done what it did.
Yeah, and this movie, while maybe not as good as the first one, is still roughly serviceable. It's also the last good movie of the series.
Yeah. So now as we're discussing this movie. So here's what, and the other reason why it's kind of funny. Speaking of Man of Steel, this is also the first time Zod gets killed by Superman, and everyone cheers.
What?
All right. So this movie starts off. Now here's the cool part about this. Here's one of the really cool parts. This movie was technically set up in Superman 1. The first time we see Krypton, Zod, Feora, or I think it's Ursa, and Non are being sent to the Phantom Zone. So I find that, when I realized that fairly recently, I was like, oh, that is so cool. I know they probably did not know they were going to get a sequel, but it's kind of cool how they homage that. Go ahead.
All right, so fun fact. They were actually filming 1 and 2 at the same time.
Oh,
in
okay.
Fact, a lot of the audition tapes, with the way they use auditions, they use scenes from Superman 2. That's why the Donner cut is even able to exist at all. Which, by the way, we're not talking about the Donner cut. We're talking about the original theatrical cut. I just want to.
Yeah, exactly. And now, and then Brown Destroyer. Hey, what's up, brother? He goes, this version of Zod actually was the leader of the German army, World War II. I'm not sure if I could say that on the internet. Looking from Golden Age. So the actor justified that Michael Shannon's version was better objectively. In your opinion, we'll go by
I would say more subjectively, but you have a right to your opinion, Brown.
Yeah. But so he's vanished, and then Superman stops a nuke, and that breaks open the Phantom Zone, and I'm like, there's like some like what's the word? There's some like precedence for that, so I can understand where they went with that. So
it's kind of weird. Because the Phantom Zone is kind of its own dimension. It's not like a plane of glass that they're stuck in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to be fair, it could be that's this version of the Phantom Zone, which in that case, totally fair. But I do want to say, I do find it actually kind of adorable that Perry White has to explain the concept of terrorism to Clark. Because you got to realize, this was 1980. Like, terrorism was not as widely known.
It happened, but no, this is pre 9/11 world. Remember that, people.
My favorite exchange is Clark says, "Well, that's terrible," and Perry's like, "Yeah, that's kind of the idea."
Yeah, exactly. And so they break out, and then Superman goes on this journey with Lois. Yeah, at the same time, I like the scene when they're on the moon and Zod, Feora, and Non like completely like destroy those astronauts like one by one. It kind of felt kind of Arkham-y, taking them out one by one.
Yeah. Also, did you notice there were Soviet and American on the moon?
Because this is
1980. The Cold War was going to exist for another 10 years.
Oh, okay, yeah. So that is kind of interesting. Well, I guess in DC, it's supposed to be like a more idealized version of the world, so that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
I noticed that, and I was like, for a second there, I forgot that this was taking place during the Cold War. So Zod, Feora, and Non arrive on Earth, and I like their first encounter with the cops. Yeah, go ahead.
But by the way, in this version, it's Zod, Ursa, and Non.
Ursa and Non. I'm confused because in my era of comics, it was Zod and Feora. So I'm a little. If I say each of those interchangeably, please know what I'm talking about, people.
Now you know why we're doing the Man of Steel. I kept calling her Ursa. Now you know why I kept.
Okay, you know what? I'll let you have those old man jokes back. I'll let you have those back.
Now that how the tables have turned.
Yeah, exactly.
You're in my domain, B.
And yet you're on my channel.
Oh, hi.
Yeah, there you go. But okay, so at least in this movie, we finally see Lois use the obvious thing, like, oh, he disappears. Clark disappears at the same time as Superman appears. They must be the same guy. So I'm like, okay, this Lois at least is smart. Yeah, go ahead.
As annoying as the character can be, let's give Margot Kidder some credit. She does a great job here.
Oh yeah, again, I hate comics Lois. I tolerate movie and TV Lois. I've always been
the character of as a Reeve fan, I will admit Margot Kidder's version can get kind of annoying sometimes, but she's played so beautifully by Margot Kidder.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. And first Superman movie was the best Reeves movie. Yes,
correct. That is the correct opinion.
That's objective, in fact.
Yeah.
That is very objective. And while I like this movie, the first one's way better.
Yeah.
But so here's the journey. So Superman finally essentially reveals his identity to Lois. Now here's where this is superior as opposed to the lazy ass way they did in Superman and Lois in the recent season, and in that stupid Death of Superman animated movie. And I mean the DCAMU one. So the way they do it in Superman and Lois and in the Death of Superman movie, Nick, is he just takes off his glasses and goes, I'm Superman.
Yeah, and this one she kind of forces out of him because we have this whole sequence of her trying to get it. Like, oh, if I fall down this ramp, if I fall in the water, he's going to save me. And then Clark actually kind of subtly saves her, cat ass off to him. But finally they're in the lover's suite and his hands don't get burnt, and that's the thing that, because in the test, I think it was in the test footage, she actually was going to shoot him.
Well, that would be interesting, but
it was going to be loaded with blanks.
Yeah, but he does feats that point to him being Superman. Like, again, his hand falling in the fires when she finally figures it out. And then I didn't notice, Nick, when he takes off the glasses, he does stand up straighter. So all this stuff combined, he does more than just take off his glasses and say, I'm Superman.
Yeah. I love the Tyler Hoechlin version, and yes, his personality does change when he's Clark. But what I like about Reeves is it's a physical transformation. Yeah. And you see it. And it's it's one of those things where once he does it, you realize, holy crap, He stands up straight. Shoulders slouch. It's like he's becoming a whole different person, and all he does is stand up straight.
That they did that in All-Star Superman as well. And Brown, yes, Jimmy Olsen, the actor that played Jimmy Olsen, was the cop at Heroes Park in Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Yeah, I was wondering when you'd mentioned that.
Yeah, I love that. I have to have my obligatory reference to the Snyderverse.
So, I didn't get to mention it last week.
Yeah, go ahead.
But the old lady at the beginning of Superman Returns was Noah Neal, the Lois from the George Reeves era.
Oh, okay, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah, like that's what I love about the Superman franchise is they always bring back legacy actors. Like that's kind of a tradition for like all Superman properties, and I really like it.
The funny part is that when they were casting for Smallville and they cast Annette O'Toole as Martha Kent, they like forgot that she was Lana, and when she shows up to her audition, she knows all this stuff about Superman, so they're like, wait, how do you know this? She goes, oh yeah, I played Lana in Superman 3, and they're like, of course!
Yeah, and then Annette O'Toole was perfect for that role.
Yeah, she was great. But anyway, so back to movie. So Superman's arc is that he brings Lois to the Fortress of Solitude, and this is where it starts how does this work? Where, okay, so Superman has a device that will bombard him with red solar radiation and take away his powers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, okay, and it's kind of funny. When this comes back at the end of the movie, there's a plot hole in this that they don't address. I'll break in that later. So he takes away his powers. They say it's permanent. Like there's no way back after this. Of course they're lying, but still. So he strips himself of his powers, sleeps with Lois for no reason, and then they leave the fortress and walk all the way back to the city from the Arctic.
Yeah, like so in the comics, is the fortress in the North or South Pole?
I think North Pole, I want to say.
Okay, because if it was South Pole, they'd be totally screwed. North Pole, I mean, there's towns like Barrow, Alaska, and stuff, but still, like quite a hike at least.
So Superman's fortress is in the Arctic.
Well, Arctic, well, like what? Does that mean like Antarctica?
No, it actually says no. Superman's Fortress of Solitude is in the Arctic, not Antarctica.
Oh, Arctic. Okay, so North Pole.
Yeah. So now, what I think is gonna happen. So continuing on with the movie. So at the same time as this is happening, Ursa, and Nan are taking over the Earth.
Old man.
Thank you. I deserve that. And so they basically take over the Earth. And then Clark shows up at the diner and gets his ass kicked by someone. And so...
Which I want to note, this scene is referenced so many times in other Superman media.
Even in Man of Steel. We'll talk about that later. Because there's a scene at the end of this. So the end scene, when they revisit this, is what makes it a little bit like, why are you complaining about Superman messing up a dude's truck when he goes back and kicks someone's ass?
To be fair, there is a difference between beating somebody up and destroying someone's truck so brutally.
No, but still, it's like they said that was very infantile. So was going back and kicking his ass. There was no reason for that. But anyway, so
there's magnitudes of repercussions.
So then Superman walks back to the Fortress of Solitude and gets his powers back. Because again, remember, they told you there's no way back for this. And I'm like, okay. So, and Randy brings up my good point. I hate Superman giving up his powers for Lois. Because here's the problem with this movie. Here's my chief problem with this from the Lois perspective. Nothing to do with the actor, it's the content. It's the fact that Superman is so distracted from Lois, he doesn't, like, in any way, he's unaware of Zod and Faora and Nan taking over. I'm going to say Faora. Taking over the world.
Well, it's okay. It happens to 1 in 5 men.
You're really enjoying this, aren't you?
Oh, I am.
So the Kryptonians attack, and so Superman is shirking his responsibility to be with Lois.
Yeah, that's one of those things where that is very out of character for Superman. Like Superman would want I could see Superman wanting to marry Lois, like that.
Oh yeah,
that
100%. Well, let me put it this way: I don't see that, but I could see why other people would say that.
But him shirking his responsibilities as Superman to this degree, that is something that Superman could never allow himself to do,
including this version of Superman. Because remember, in the first movie. In the first movie, Pa Kent basically gives him the "in great power comes great responsibility" speech.
The only scenario where I see a Superman retiring is let's say Justice League Unlimited, where there's an entire army of superheroes, where the world is well taken care of, and while he's a great help, they don't particularly need him, so he can be like, all right, the world is in good hands. I'm going to retire. If there's an enemy that you really need me for, I'll be there. But I'm going to be on my farm.
Yeah, exactly. But when he's the only superhero, it doesn't work.
Exactly.
And that's my chief problem with this movie. And by the way, Sally Girl, hey, what's up? She brings up Lois looks at Superman like he was a part of the female anatomy after he got beaten up. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's so much fun trying to censor stuff. Wait, what do you think about the Phantom Zone portrayal in this movie? I don't have that much of a comparison because we don't exactly see it a lot in movies and TV. In the comics, we see it all the time, but I don't have like that much to compare it.
I don't like it because the Phantom Zone is very much supposed to be a separate reality, and making it like a pane of glass wall is visually interesting. The fact that it could be broken open by a nuclear bomb, that doesn't make like it's not that secure, and you'd think that, like, it's supposed to be like this mega prison. The Kryptonians would have designed it better if a nuclear bomb could open it, because there's tons of forces, especially in space, that could break it open. Like, what if they flew into a sun and it broke open? They could just fly out.
Yeah, exactly. In the comics, they make it so you can only escape with the projector. So it says like there's only one way out. So
yeah.
So Superman shows up and fights Zod, and I do like the scene where he's covering outside. He goes, "General, you mind taking a step outside?"
Yeah, that's another scene that's been referenced a couple times in other media.
You know what? Also, it was referenced, and this was in Man of Steel, when they fight on the construction building and like they're swinging stuff at each other. Yeah, that was very much in Man of Steel.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I really like that very, very much.
Read Randy's comment.
Yeah, Randy says it would have been cooler to have Linda Carter's Wonder Woman in this movie. Well, Britt and I talked about that in our crossover episode for Reeve and Carter, so you can check that out. And yes, Randy, that would have been cool. So,
you need to do a Superman Legacy episode where you do an alternate Superman 3, where instead of him going back to Smallville, he actually starts teaming up with Diana.
We did that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and Sergeant says Superman 2 is definitely the first time he kills it. Don't get why after Superman Returns would reboot the movie instead of toning down the script for Brainiac. Yeah, nothing WB does make sense, Giratina. I'm just going to tell you that right there.
As far as I remember, this film also did well. Like, I believe Superman 2 did well at box office.
Yeah, it did. 3 and 4 is when it went downhill, and they were like, reboot.
Well, the problem is Superman 3. They forced Richard Pryor in there, and Superman 3 is essentially Richard Pryor and friends. Like, it's a Richard Pryor movie with Superman in it, kind of. And it just totally doesn't work. And the thing is, Superman 4 actually came out like 5 years later. It was just more of an afterthought, and it just does not work.
Yeah, so then Zod captures Lois and forces Superman to come to the Fortress of Solitude. And then I do like how Superman plays off of Lex's propensity to like betray him. So he's like, get them in that chamber. And then Lois goes, and then Lex goes, don't go in the chamber. It's a trap. So I'm like, okay, I kind of like that. So now here's the plot hole. So when Superman activates the red sun thing and takes away their powers, they don't react. Whereas earlier in the movie, when Superman does that to himself, you see like this like projection and like everything, and he reacts. It's almost like it's hurting him, taking away his powers. But the 3 Kryptonians that this happens to don't notice.
Okay, devil's advocate. Kryptonians are essentially solar batteries. Okay.
Yeah.
Clark has been absorbing solar radiation his entire life. That's why every time there's a new Kryptonian appears, he's able to defeat them because he's more accumulated to Earth atmosphere, and the Kryptonians have only really been absorbing solar radiation for at most a week. So they have a lot less solar radiation to take away. That I'm rationalizing. I'm trying to, play devil's advocate here.
Yeah. Well, it's not working. But anyway, didn't Superman kill Zod in the first or second animated series? Well, I know he killed like rogue Kryptonians in the comics once by throwing kryptonite in a room with them. And then
I think he's killed Zod in the comics a couple of times.
Many times. So here's the thing. So it's Superman kneels before Zod, takes his hand and crushes it, and then throws him at full force against a wall. Okay. And Zod is as human at this point. So, okay, here's my problem. In Man of Steel, A, he had no other option, and B, he reacted like he was in pain, like, oh my gosh, I just killed him.
Yeah,
he smiles.
I'm not even going to bother defending this. You're like, honestly, you're completely right on this, because honestly, like, the thing I like about the Man of Steel version is they pull out all the stops to make you feel like he had no other choice. And after he does it, he is torn up about it. He did not want to do this, and it kills him inside. Whereas this version, honestly, Reeves plays this a bit psychotic, like psychopath-y.
Yeah, and here's the thing. There was no reason for him to throw Zod against a wall. Zod didn't have powers anymore.
Like, I could excuse the crushing of the hand. Like, I could...
yeah, 100. That's fine. It's just when he throws him against a wall that I'm like, why do people accept this?
Yeah, like, I could, like, crushing the hand is a bit too far, but you can kind of, like, okay, he's comeuppance or whatever, but, Zod is essentially human at this point. He's helpless. Like, okay, crushing the hand proves the point. Restrain him, or whatever. Hurt them!
Yeah, and now here's the thing, and my good friend Nick, this pisses the crap out of me. When people bash Zach for doing something, but excuse it when the exact same thing is done in their favorite portrayal.
Oh, I mean, not only done like, this is done worse in the Superman movies.
Yeah, it's very worse because there's literally no reason for this.
There's no justification. Clark acts like a psychopathic villain in this one, whereas in the Man of Steel version, they went way out of the way to show that he had to do it, and Clark didn't like doing it. Like, he's like, please don't make me do this, and he did it, and then you had that whole scream of, like, he hated doing it. Like
even in the comics. In the comics, so he killed those 3 Kryptonians, and that weighed heavily on him, and that's why in Superman Aliens he didn't kill any of the Xenomorphs, because he was like, I can't kill anymore. I'm not doing this.
Yeah, like there are some legit gripes with the Snyder stuff. You all know what it is, but this is one of the things that people bring up a lot that I think is kind of bullcrap. Honestly, like I think this Snyder scene, like, you can not like Superman killing. But to try and claim, like, oh, it's not necessarily, there's no other choice. There's no other choice.
Or yes, and Brown Destroyer says it's the same for Batman. Michael Keaton kills people left and right. I've brought this up to people, and they go, well, yeah, we don't like that either. And I'm like, since when? Because the only other time, because whenever I hear people talk about the definitive Superman and Batman, it's Michael Keaton and Superman.
And me, I'm a Keaton fan. I never even tried to defend that. I'm like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, because Nick, you are intellectually consistent. That's the difference. You're like, okay, also, yeah, go ahead.
Also, my stance on the Batman killing, I'm like, whatever.
Yeah, as long as he doesn't turn into a psychopathic murderer and kills literally everyone, then I have a problem with it, or like it's made up like a joke. But if it's like he has no other options, like Man of Steel, yeah, there's no that's why my stance on the DC superheroes killing, I'm like, as long as it's the last resort, like they've tried everything else, like in Man of Steel, yeah, I'm fine with it. Whereas this, literally, he has no powers. He's not a threat to you anymore.
Okay, so as far as Superman, I don't think he should kill. But as far as Batman, the problem with the Batman is killing.
Well, Nick, hang on a second. Are you saying he shouldn't have killed Doomsday?
No. With Superman, I'm okay with him killing if there's no other choice.
That's my point there. Yes, as long as you've exhausted all the other options, yeah, go ahead.
But the thing with Batman is there's a lot more justifications for killing. Like, the Joker should have been murdered a long time ago.
Yeah, at least that's why in Under the Red Hood, and we may do a repeat of that for movie night, because I want to make this point. When Red Hood says, I'm not talking about killing Harvey or Penguin or anything like that, just him.
Or at the very least, lobotomize the Joker. Like, have Superman, like, lobotomize the Joker so he's alive, but, you know, can't, like, harmless. Like, come on.
He might, but according to Batman, he might as well be dead. Or how about the times where you paralyze criminals? Batman
paralyze the Joker, like have him paralyzed from the spine down. Like, sure,
shoot him in the spine. Have Barbara shoot him in the spine. In the ultimate irony.
Oh God! That's
what I would do.
If I do Batman comics, I totally would do that.
You know, here's how I would do it. I would so Barbara just knocks on the Joker's door. He opens the door. She's in a Hawaiian shirt. Takes out a gun. Boosh.
Yes.
That's what I would do. And I would call it, I would call it The Killing Joke 2, Electric Boogaloo.
No. The Killing Joke 2, Killing Jokier.
Okay, yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's the ultimate sense. Joker is the one, and I was having a conversation about this with someone earlier. It's like, Joker's the one who you can't, because I get why Batman doesn't want to kill like Harvey or Penguin, because he sees redemption in them. Joker's the one where there's zero redemption with him.
Yeah, it's like there's so much bad crap he's done, so many things. But I will say, I do like that moment in Hush where Batman's finally starting to snap and he's like beating the Joker to death, and Gordon comes to him, puts a gun to his face, and says, of all the stuff he's done, but if you kill him, I will hunt you down. It gets him back from the line. I gotta admit, that is like one of my favorite moments.
But still, it doesn't work, because here's the thing, though. According to self-defense laws, Batman's justified. So Gordon would not be able to do anything legally.
But I do like Gordon because he is a lawman, and him, like, you know.
Yeah, that makes sense. But so the thing on this, it's like, okay, it's like not only with that, not only, by the way, in Man of Steel with the Clark pleading with Zod, but even earlier, Zod even tells Clark there's only one way this ends. There's only two ways this ends. Either you die or I do. Yeah.
See that, and the thing is, BVS is all the more powerful because of Man of Steel, because he had to kill Zod, and now he's being forced into arguably a similar situation in BVS.
Yeah,
and he doesn't want to do it. Like, he's
remember,
trying everything.
He goes, "Stay down. If I wanted it, you'd be dead already."
Yeah, like I think the ending of Man of Steel actually makes BVS a better film because it informs his character.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not gonna, because first off, he would be very unjustified in killing Batman, and he's like, hey, listen, he basically repeatedly tells Bruce, hey, we're being manipulated, a-hole. And Batman is justified too, because actually there's comic precedents for Batman becoming darker when Robin died, as in the case of Death in the Family. That's why Tim Drake basically forced his way to be Robin, because he's like, no, Batman needs to have a Robin.
Yeah. I was gonna bring that up when he said it. Thank you.
Yeah. And that's the thing. That's why when people say Zach was not comic accurate at all, and I'm like, okay, he was more comic accurate than you give him credit for.
Yeah, that's why if they would have done like movies with Ben Affleck, they really should introduce a new Robin. Whether it's Carrie Kelly, Tim Drake, honestly, Carrie Kelly in that universe.
I could see them doing Carrie, particularly since this Batman is a heavily Dark Knight Returns. By the way, when you have, wait, real quick, when you have Marv frickin' Wolfman, creator of Deathstroke, saying, I've read the script for Ben Affleck's Batman movie, and it is 100% Deathstroke, make this movie, that's when you know you got something there.
See, that's one of those things where it's like, they like you could put in a female character and no one would complain because it's both Carrie Kelly, a female Robin, and also they're doing Dark Knight Returns. Like it fits.
Yeah, it fits the world that they established. And again, comic accuracy. If anyone complains, then they didn't read Dark Knight Returns.
Exactly.
Michael Keaton. So here's the thing about Keaton's Batman. In some ways, he was comic accurate, but in some ways he wasn't. And I don't think they were going necessarily for comic accuracy in the 89 movie. What do you think?
I mean, comic accuracy when it comes to Batman is a bit of a misnomer, in my opinion, because there's been so many permutations of Batman. It's hard to say what, like, to me, it's more like the spirit of the character.
Yeah.
And I think the Keaton films very much do embody. I think Burton really got like the essence of the character.
Which is ironic because Burton has bragged and said, I never read comic books. So I'm like, accidentally you did it, bro.
Like he's like the Keaton version is very much in line with the 80s version, because the Dark Knight Returns is what is basically what prompted them to make Batman 89.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure somebody showed him a Batman Dark Knight Returns at some point and maybe thumbed through it or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like,
well, 110%. And yeah, because again, if because Batman was like on the verge of cancellation back in the day because of the Adam West show, and then when Dark Knight Returns came out and it got like all this mainstream praise, they were like, okay, let's do Dark Batman.
Bro, there's almost 20 years of comics you skipped over and like.
No, I know, but mainstream wise, that gave the studio more confidence to green light a Dark Batman movie. I know that you have like the Neil Adams and Denny O'Neil, but I'm saying in terms of like the studio themselves feeling confident in a Dark Batman movie, Dark Knight Returns is responsible for that.
Yeah. So the second part is true. Like, yeah, the comics did slump after the Adam West show, but like the Neil Adams, Denny O'Neil run that started in like 69, 70, did keep Superman afloat through the 70s and most of the 80s.
Batman afloat, you mean? You had your own old man moment, bro.
Whatever. But you know what I mean.
Yeah, and you are right in terms of like, so I'm not saying that like Batman became irrelevant before Dark Knight Returns because that's objectively false. But it's like in terms of mainstream appeal, Dark Knight Returns was the start of that. In terms of non-comic book readers, all of a sudden going, "Oh, I love Batman."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's the cool part about that. But so all in all, I like Superman 2. Like we said earlier, it is definitely not better than the first movie.
It's got some great action, and the effects
not
actually kind of like they hold up. They've aged well. Let's say it that way.
For the time period, yes, it is very much. They've aged pretty well for
that's
a movie
why I
of
say
that time.
That's why I say aged well rather than hold up, because you can definitely like tell, but we've seen a lot worse, especially within the last few years. Like I'm just gonna say this: a movie from 1980 has better special effects than Thor: Love and Thunder.
Or The Flash.
Oh God.
Yeah, but so speaking of okay, so and then we have the movie ends, so they defeat Zod by killing him. So the movie ends. I'm gonna emphasize that. And so Lois is all distraught about knowing Superman's identity, so he kisses her, and somehow Superman can wipe the memory. He has magic lips. He can wipe her memory with a kiss.
What's even worse in Superman 4, it's revealed the kiss didn't actually work. And then he just kisses her again. Like, okay, you've already said it didn't work, so I'm just going to kiss you again.
Yeah, I'm like, okay. I love in this movie, but here's the thing, though. Here's why I don't get really pissed off about this. This is Silver Age Superman, essentially, and they were constantly making up powers for him.
Yeah.
Like, remember, the panel of Superman carrying a solar system on a chain is from this era. So once you realize that era of Superman is what we're dealing with, yeah, a lot of this stuff, while it's still kind of like campy, it makes sense. I'm like, okay, it's more excusable.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, there's no way I could see Henry Cavill doing that. That would be so. Then the movie then the movie ends here with he revisits the diner with the dude that beat him up, and then he proceeds to beat up that person. And I'm like, okay, why did people get? See again here's this movie is arguably Superman does worse stuff in this movie than he did in Man of Steel. Because he didn't. Because at the end scene, because in the diner scene in Man of Steel when he takes out the truck, he didn't leave and then come back weeks later. In this one, he did.
And at least in the Superman and Lois, he's justified in that the guy is a creep who pointed a gun at his son.
Oh yeah, and I love that scene 100 because that is what Superman would do. Because he's not going to kill him. He's going to put the fear of God into him.
Yeah, like the most Superman thing he does is the guy charges at him and like. Also, you gotta give him credit for like when he slams his head on the table. You know how much self-control, like just
yeah.
Okay. Jared, imagine you're holding an egg and you have to slam that egg onto the table without cracking it.
That's essentially what Superman has to deal with because again, Superman has the power to lift a tank and crush steel. He could crush that dude's head if he wants.
Yeah, that's like what I love like Spider-Man has those moments. There's that invincible I thought you'd be stronger moment.
Yeah, and yeah, that was done. That's a better homage to this because again, and it wasn't like Superman met the dude and then went back later and kicked his ass. No, he did it all in one shot. My problem is, so Superman goes back now that he has his powers and he's like, I'm gonna get revenge.
It just comes across as very, very petty.
Yeah, way more petty than Man of Steel or Superman and Lois. Because
at least in Man of Steel, he's kind of defending a woman's honor. Like there's some justification for it.
Yeah. So they go with this. It's like, no, you beat me up, so I'm gonna defend my manhood.
Yeah. Like I'm saying, it's like in Man of Steel, you have very flimsy justification, but there's still at least some defense you can raise. Like he was defending a woman's honor. It's like he could show his powers then.
Sexual harasser. Yeah, I think he's more justified.
Yeah, or at the very least, it's like he couldn't do it then, but he did it in a way that could trace it to him. This one, it's there's no defense for it.
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons why I think personally for me, this is definitely not above the first Superman movie because in the first Superman movie, he acts like Superman, 110%. There's nothing he really does to the best of my memory where I'm like, there's no way even this Superman would do that.
Oh, just wait till we eventually do Superman 3. Like, even though it's evil Superman, he does so much messed up stuff in that movie. Like, yeah, even though he's evil Superman, like he drinks the bar scene, him kind of like being a creep towards Lana in that one scene.
Yeah,
like
we'll definitely cover that.
But it's still messed up.
Yeah, we'll definitely cover that for sure. But so I think that's a good place to leave the discussion of this movie. Now we'll transition to our brief Q&A and then we'll wrap up. By the way, next week's movie is going to be Spider-Man 2.
Ooh.
Yeah, that was Taladia's pick for this month.
Spider-Man no more.
Pretty much. I'm Spider-Man ... No more.
Oh, arguably the best comic book movie ever, and if that is not the title, I will be mad.
Well, I remember that title is reserved to Zack Snyder's Justice League, at least in the eyes of this channel.
Well, Spider-Man 2 is definitely on the Mount Rushmore.
It's in my top 5. Let me put it to you that way. It's in my top 5.
Yeah.
So ask us whatever questions you guys would like to ask about Superman, about anything else. Let me see if there were any questions here that we can address that were put in the comments. By the way, so we got questions. I didn't like that cast obsession with Absolute Superman. I kind of liked it. Now, I'm not going to like spoil it because I'm going to do the review for Absolute Superman on Wednesday, but it makes sense for that world. So on Krypton, there is a caste system. All right, so Brown Destroyer says, anyone here watch the 60s Superman TV series? I did not.
Yeah, the George Reeves one. Oh, gosh. Jared, when are we going to cover Hollywoodland?
Never. Because it's not a comic book movie. I can't justify that.
Jared, if I ever do that movie on my channel, you have to be there.
Yeah. All right. By the way, at some point, it would be kind of fun to cover some of the Superman Max Fleischer cartoons.
Ooh, we could do that. We could do that for like a special episode of Superman rewatch.
Yeah, exactly. That'll be really fun. I'm definitely down to do that. So we got that. So let me ask you this, Nick. What's your favorite Superman comic that you've read? I know you're not necessarily that much of a Superman guy, but I'm curious.
I think let's see. The only two that I've read have been the Superman, the Death of Superman trilogy, and then Superman Legends of Rio. So Death of Superman, I probably would say.
You haven't read All Star?
Oh, I've read All Star. All Star was good.
All Star, of the ones that I've read, obviously Superman and Wonder Woman is on that list. Superman War World, any of the Grant Morrison Action Comics.
I want to read Superman American Alien. I heard that was good. That was written by Max Landis.
That's really good. I think you would dig that because there's this great scene. So he lands on, so he like falls out of the sky and like lands on Bruce Wayne's yacht, and everyone thinks he's Bruce Wayne. So he runs with it. So he goes to and then he sleeps with Barbara Minerva. Yes, that Barbara Minerva. So he wakes up. Slade Wilson is in the stateroom of the ship because Slade has been hired to kill Bruce Wayne. He doesn't know who he actually is. So Slade swings on with the sword. The sword breaks, and Slade's like, "What?"
Well, fudge!
And then Clark throws him off the ship. It's so hilarious. It's one of those scenes where I'm like, yeah, I like this. Mike Brown says, what did you guys think of the Superman documentary being flopped? WB lost lots of money because of that. Isn't that proof that Christopher Reeve Superman isn't as popular as people might think? Well, it wasn't necessarily about Superman specifically. It was about Christopher Reeve, the guy. Obviously, Superman played into it. I mean, I still haven't watched it. I plan to later.
Wasn't it streaming only?
No, it was in theaters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which again, if it was just like a documentary about the Reeve Superman like movies, then yes, I would say that is kind of troubling. But the fact there was also a documentary about Chris Reeves himself, I'm like that doesn't necessarily impact it.
Well, here's the thing. I still think Christopher Reeve and the Superman movies are beloved, but you got to realize Superman, the first Superman movie is like 40, almost 50 years old at this point. 1977. If you can do the math, I would appreciate that, Jared. So like, okay, so just to give you like, so I'm
47 years.
Yeah, they're almost 50 years old. Okay, the first movie came out 10 years before I was even born. All right, and so you got to realize the people who love these movies, people who grew up on them. Oh, God, I already know what Jared's going to say. The people who grew up in these movies, the people who loved them, I can see your smile. They are getting old.
Like you!
God, freaking dang it. I knew it.
Other breaking news. Water. Wet.
I love how we both know what was going to happen. To see you turn with that smile.
I was like, when he starts talking to you about these movies are getting old, I'm like, here we go! No, but that's true. And that's the thing. That's why, that's one of the reasons why The Flash didn't work bringing back Michael Keaton. Because here's the thing. While those characters... different. Well, here, in addition to The Flash being a crappy movie, bear with me. Because there's a big divide culturally in terms of, like, Christopher Reeve Superman to, like, the people that go and see movies now to that level of essentially, like, what I mean is, like, in terms of the like, let's say comic book reading audience of, like, say nowadays in this generation, there's, like, again, a 47-year like gap.
Okay. I heavily disagree on the Flash thing because I think the only reason the Flash made as much money as it did is because of Michael Keaton. Okay. They heavily marketed the movie on Michael Keaton returning, and there was a lot of this was very much marketed as a Michael Keaton return, and I honestly think without Michael Keaton, it probably would have made $200 million at most.
Well, yeah, but I think it would have made more, and more people would have showed up if they because they said they did approach Christian Bale in an alternate universe. Let's say he did sign on for that. I think that would have done better because there's less of a generational divide from Bale to Keaton.
I'm not sure I agree, but that's one where I am not as solid in my argument.
Yeah, but anyway, so on to this.
But the point is, the people would have came to those movies because of Batman.
Yeah,
whether it's Christopher Reeve, whether it's Michael Keaton.
Don't
or
worry,
Christian
it happens
Bale.
to 1 in 5 men.
You were waiting to bust that one out. But I don't know. I will say when Christian Bale does eventually return as Bruce Wayne is going to be a big deal, and I think he will return at some point. Yeah,
maybe even in Crisis. But yeah, so to that point, it's like those movies came out 47 years ago. At least the first one did. And you know what? And again, this isn't saying those movies are bad, because I like those movies, even though I'm more of a Cavill guy. But the thing about it is that you can't expect the audience of today to 100% relate to a movie from 47 years ago.
Like, that's the point we made in the Superman Returns thing, where there was enough love to justify a movie, and even then, people didn't show up.
Yeah, exactly. So that's really that's the problem with WB constantly trying to dip into this well, because this does not necessarily, because it has statistically and objectively shown that constantly obsessing about this version of the character in terms of creative decisions leads to lower returns in the box office. Now, here's the thing. Can you homage this universe? Yes, 110%. Even Man of Steel homaged it. But you cannot copy this. And I'm concerned that the current Superman movie that's in development is making the same mistakes as Returns.
I fear that too. But what I'm hoping is, and I'm probably very wrong with this, is James Gunn is trying to just go for the feel of that time. Like, he's trying to go for, like, the feel, like, have it feel like a more of a Silver Age adaptation. Not necessarily, like, directly copying the pre-Reeve stuff, but more just, like, the tone, the style, the aesthetics, you know, while still being thoroughly modern. You know, kind of like doing, like, a modern-day Earth 2. Like, remember how I called Superman Returns an Earth 2 movie?
Yeah.
Like, just go full, like, have it be like an Earth 2 style kind of thing.
Yeah, and Randy says that's why Superman isn't doing well, because post-crisis is outdated. Not post-crisis, pre-crisis. Because post-crisis you can do. Post-crisis, because what they did with the Snyderverse is they blended post-crisis and New 52 actually way better than DC Rebirth did. So they did something better than the comics. Hey, isn't it kind of funny how that works? It's almost as if DC Rebirth was a mistake. Go on, Nick.
See, my thing is, I like it when superhero worlds are stylized.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I like the Keaton ones, because they very much borrow that German expressionism aesthetic. I praise Superman Returns for having that retro futurism kind of feel to it. Or even Batman Begins. Batman Begins had that grimy kind of aesthetic. Or the Batman having that kind of, like, grimy, kind of, like, over you know, hyperrealism thing. See, that's the problem I had with the Christian Bale movies is Batman Begins is great, but from Dark onward, it's like, oh, it's Chicago, Gotham is Chicago.
Yeah, and I get what they're doing, because here's the thing. The problem with the way the studios handle superhero movies nowadays is that they're like, okay, relatable means it has to legitimately be like taking place in today's world. Otherwise, no one's going to be able to relate to it.
Yeah, and that's kind of the problem I had with the Snyder version is they went, Metropolis is San Francisco, Gotham is Oakland. You know, they literally went for that parallel across the bay kind of thing, like Gotham being Oakland. We didn't really see enough of Ben Affleck's Gotham to really kind of make a judgment on it. I would have liked to see more of it, but I don't know.
Well, I would love to see more Snyderverse. Brown says Superman, American Alien, Superman, Earth One from post crisis. Yeah, exactly. And Man of Steel is based on both of those comics. Yeah, American Alien and Earth One. Yeah, 100%. So I think that's a good place to leave it because Nick and I have other shows we got to do. But all in all, I rate this movie a solid 7 out of 10. How about you, Nick?
Yeah, probably the same. Maybe I might bump it up an 8 because of nostalgia. But yeah, it's good. It's good. Definitely a good movie. Not like earth shattering or whatever. I don't know what I gave Superman 1, but like that one is like a 9.5.
Yeah.
This one is more of like a maybe 7.58, I'd say.
Yeah, it's great, but not perfect. So that's what
good, but not great is what for my, that's my assessment. Good, but not great.
Yeah. Okay. So Nick, where can we find you, and what have you got coming on your channel?
All right. In less than an hour, I'll be busting some ghosts, playing some Ghostbusters 2009. On Monday, I'll be hanging out with this handsome gentleman. We'll be talking about some Kingdom Come. Tuesday, we got Proto Trigger. Then Friday, we got the Friday Night Frenzy.
For Comics League, on Monday, Britt and I will be releasing our Super Wonder Legacy, where Britt and I discuss how the death of Superman broke Superman as a character. And then we're going to discuss, so on Sunday, we're going to be talking a Superman the Animated Series, still not on the World's Finest crossover before you say anything. On Wednesday, I will be doing Absolute Superman, the review. And I was thinking for Under Two Capes next week, we could discuss how we would do the Bat family in the Keaton-verse.
You're trying to lure me in.
Well, I'm saying because I had a blast doing the BVS one, so I'm like, and it did well, so I'm like, capitalize on it?
Oh, you know this means you get to use a picture of Damian Wayans from Blake Man and just put an R on his chest.
God damn it.
You know you have to do that now.
That's going to be in the thumbnail. Yes, it is. But anyway, so stay heroic, everyone. Remember, and this could not be any more relevant than this episode. Lois Lane is Lois Lane. She belongs with General Zod and Bizarro. Zois, Bizarro, and Maxabat for life. See you later, everyone.